Victor Chen adjusted the heavy package on his shoulder and pushed through the glass doors of Meridian Pharmaceuticals. The morning sun reflected off the steel and glass building, making him squint as he entered the cool, air-conditioned lobby. His worn sneakers squeaked against the polished marble floor, leaving faint tracks that would disappear within minutes. At 34 years old, Victor had become an expert at being invisible. People looked through him, not at him. He was just the delivery guy, someone who brought boxes and left without making an impression. The lobby of Meridian Pharmaceuticals always intimidated him slightly. Scientists in pristine white coats walked past with important expressions. Business. Executives in expensive suits talked on phones about millions of dollars. Security guards watched everyone with careful eyes. Victor knew his place in this world. He was the background, the support staff, the person nobody remembered 5 minutes after he left. Beth Torres smiled at him from behind the reception desk. She was the only person in the entire building who treated him like a human being. Her warm brown eyes crinkled at the corners when she saw him approach. "Good morning, Victor. How is your day going so far?" Victor returned her smile, grateful for the kindness. "Not bad, Beth. I have 3 packages for the research department today. Looks like some important equipment." Beth checked her computer and nodded. "They have been waiting for those. Big presentation happening upstairs today. The board is here, and everyone is stressed." Victor chuckled softly. "Glad I just deliver the boxes and do not have to deal with the pressure." But that casual statement could not have been further from the truth. Victor carried pressure with him every single day, weight that nobody could see. 6 years ago, he had been a promising graduate student at Singapore National University, studying advanced biochemistry and molecular medicine. His professors had praised his analytical mind and his ability to understand complex medical problems. He had been on track to earn his doctorate and join a major research team. Then his father, Thomas Chen, fell ill. The diagnosis came suddenly: advanced liver disease requiring constant care and expensive treatment. Victor's mother had passed away when he was young, so he was the only family his father had. The choice had been clear, even though it broke his heart. He dropped out of university and took whatever jobs he could find to pay for his father's medical care. For 3 years, Victor worked double shifts while nursing his father. He read medical journals late at night, trying to keep his knowledge fresh. He practiced chemical equations in his head while loading delivery trucks. He memorized drug interactions while driving through traffic. His father always told him to go back to school, to not waste his brilliant mind, but Victor refused to leave him alone. When Thomas Chen died 2 years ago, he made Victor promise something. "Live your life, son. Use your gifts. Do not let my illness steal your future." But by then, Victor had been out of academia too long. His research was outdated. His connections had faded. His scholarship opportunities had vanished. He had tried to re-enter university, but without funding and with gaps in his education, every door closed in his face. So he kept delivering packages, carrying his unused knowledge like a secret burden. Victor took the elevator to the 15th floor, where the research department occupied half the building. The hallways here smelled like chemicals and possibility. Through glass walls, he could see laboratories filled with expensive equipment. Scientists bent over microscopes and computer screens, searching for answers to diseases that killed millions of people. He had dreamed of working in a place like this. Now he just delivered boxes to it. The research assistant who signed for the packages barely looked at him. Victor was used to that. He turned to leave when he heard raised voices coming from the large conference room at the end of the hallway. The door was slightly open, and through the gap, he could see a long table surrounded by serious-looking people in business attire. Victor recognized Harrison Blake, the founder of Meridian Pharmaceuticals. At 52 years old, Harrison was a legend in the medical industry. He had built his company from nothing into one of the most innovative pharmaceutical research centers in Southeast Asia. His current project, a breakthrough drug for treating aggressive cancers, had attracted international attention and billions in investment. The board meeting was clearly tense. Victor could see folders scattered across the table, laptop screens displaying complex data, and faces that looked worried. He should not have been listening, but something made him pause. A woman's voice rose above the others. The trial results are not improving, Harrison. We have invested 4 years and $200 million into this research. Our investors are getting nervous. Harrison's deep voice responded with controlled frustration. The drug works, Rachel. The laboratory results prove it. Something in the delivery mechanism is failing. We need more time to identify the problem. Another man spoke up, his tone sharp. Time is exactly what we do not have. Our competitor, Genesis Labs, is developing a similar treatment. If they reach market first, we lose everything. Victor felt sympathy for them. He understood the pressure of medical research, the race to develop treatments that could save lives. He remembered feeling that same urgency during his graduate studies, the knowledge that every day of delay meant more people suffering from diseases that might be cured. He was about to leave when he heard a sudden commotion from inside the conference room. Someone gasped loudly. A chair scraped against the floor. Then multiple voices spoke at once, urgent and frightened. Margaret, can you hear me? Someone call the medical team right now. She is not responding. Her lips are turning blue. Victor's training kicked in immediately. He dropped his empty delivery bag and moved toward the conference room door. Through the opening, he could see an elderly woman slumped in her chair, her face pale, her breathing shallow and irregular. The people around her looked terrified, frozen in panic. Harrison Blake was on his phone, his voice sharp. Where is Dr. Walsh? What do you mean he left for a conference? We need medical help immediately. One of our board members just collapsed. Victor's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to walk away. This was not his business. He was just a delivery driver. These were important people with access to the best medical care money could buy. What could he possibly do? But then he saw the woman's hand twitching, and he recognized the signs immediately. His years of medical training flooded back. He knew what was happening, and he knew that waiting for help might be too late. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Use your gifts, son. Victor pushed the door open fully and stepped inside. Every face turned toward him with confusion. Harrison Blake looked at him with irritation. Who are you? This is a private meeting. Victor's voice came out steady despite his racing pulse. Sir, I am the delivery driver. But I have medical training. That woman is having a severe allergic reaction, possibly anaphylactic shock. She needs help right now, or she might stop breathing completely. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Victor, taking in his simple uniform, his delivery company logo, his complete lack of credentials. Rachel Kim stepped forward, her expression skeptical. Medical training? You are a delivery driver. Victor met her eyes. I studied molecular medicine and biochemistry at Singapore National University. I did not finish my doctorate, but I completed 3 years of advanced medical studies. I recognize the symptoms. She needs immediate intervention. Harrison Blake looked at the woman, whose breathing had become even more labored. He made a split-second decision. Do it. Whatever you can do it now. Victor moved quickly to Margaret Foster's side. He checked her pulse, examined her throat, and noted the rapid swelling. He spoke with calm authority, his voice transforming from hesitant delivery driver to confident medical professional. She is going into full anaphylactic shock. Does anyone have an EpiPen? Any emergency epinephrine? A young researcher rushed forward, with a medical kit from a nearby laboratory. Victor found what he needed, administered the injection with practiced precision, and carefully monitored her response. He elevated her legs, loosened her collar, and spoke to her in a soothing voice even though she was barely conscious. The room watched in stunned silence as Victor worked. His hands moved with confidence. His medical knowledge surfaced after years of being buried. Within 3 minutes, Margaret's breathing began to stabilize. Color returned to her face. By the time the emergency medical team arrived, she was conscious and stable. The paramedics transferred her to a stretcher, praising Victor's quick response. As they left, Harrison Blake turned to look at Victor with an expression of complete bewilderment. "Who exactly are you?" "Victor Chen, sir. I deliver packages here twice a week." Harrison shook his head slowly. "No." "Who are you really?" And in that moment, standing in a conference room full of brilliant scientists and wealthy executives, Victor realized that his life had just changed forever. The invisible delivery driver had finally been seen. Victor stood in the conference room, suddenly aware that every eye was fixed on him. The adrenaline from the emergency was fading, replaced by uncomfortable self-consciousness. Harrison Blake gestured toward an empty chair, his expression intense and curious. "Please sit down, Mr. Chen. I think we need to have a conversation." Victor hesitated, then sat. His delivery uniform felt out of place among the expensive business suits surrounding him. Rachel Kim pulled her chair closer, her skepticism evident, but mixed with genuine interest. Timothy Walsh, the lead scientist, leaned forward with his arms crossed. Harrison spoke first, his voice measured and thoughtful. "You just demonstrated advanced medical knowledge that saved a woman's life. Yet you deliver packages for a living. I need to understand how that makes sense." Victor took a deep breath. The truth felt heavy in his chest, but after years of hiding, his past, speaking about it, brought unexpected relief. "I was a graduate student at Singapore National University 6 years ago. My focus was molecular medicine and biochemistry. I studied drug interactions, cellular responses to treatments, and pharmaceutical development. My professors said I had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed." He paused, remembering those days with a mixture of pride and pain. "What happened?" Timothy asked, his tone less harsh than Rachel's had been. "My father became ill. Advanced liver disease. I was his only family. The medical bills were enormous, and he needed constant care. I had to choose between my education and his life. That was not really a choice at all." The room was quiet. Victor saw several faces soften with understanding. Even Rachel's skeptical expression shifted slightly. "I worked multiple jobs for 3 years while taking care of him. I kept studying on my own, reading medical journals, following pharmaceutical research, trying to keep my knowledge current. When my father passed away 2 years ago, I tried to return to university. But the gaps in my education, the lack of funding, the missing connections, every door was closed. So I kept working. Delivering packages pays the bills." Harrison studied Victor for a long moment. "What you did today was not basic first aid. You diagnosed anaphylactic shock within seconds and administered treatment with professional precision. That kind of knowledge does not come from reading journals at night." Victor shrugged slightly. "Knowledge is not something you lose just because you stop using it formally. My mind never stopped being a scientist's mind, even when my job title changed." The test Rachel Kim leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful but cautious. "Harrison, I appreciate what Mr. Chen did today. Margaret is alive because of him, and we are all grateful. But gratitude and professional qualifications are different things. This is a pharmaceutical research company. We cannot make hiring decisions based on emergency situations." Harrison nodded slowly. "You are right, Rachel, which is exactly why I want to propose something." He turned to Victor. "We are facing a critical problem with our cancer drug trial. The compound works beautifully in laboratory conditions, but when we test it on patients, the results are inconsistent. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does nothing, sometimes it causes minor adverse reactions. We have the best research team in the region trying to solve this puzzle, and we are stuck." Timothy spoke up, his pride clearly wounded. "We have run every possible analysis. The chemical structure is sound. The delivery mechanism should work. Something is interfering with the drug's effectiveness." But we cannot identify what. Harrison looked at Victor. I want to show you our research, give you access to our data. Let you look at the problem with fresh eyes. If you can identify something we missed, if you can prove that your knowledge is as real as it appeared today, then I will offer you a position on our research team. Victor's heart raced. This was the opportunity he had stopped believing would ever come. But doubt crept in immediately. These were world-class scientists with decades of experience. What made him think he could solve something they could not? As if reading his thoughts, Harrison added, sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. You have been outside the traditional system for years. Maybe that gives you a perspective we lack. Rachel remained skeptical. And if he cannot solve it? If this was just a lucky moment? Then he goes back to delivering packages, and we continue our work. But I have built this company on recognizing talent wherever I find it. I am not going to ignore potential just because it arrives in a delivery uniform. The investigation Victor was given a temporary security badge and escorted to a private office with a computer terminal. Timothy brought him thick folders containing months of research data, trial results, chemical analyses, and patient reports. The stack of documents was intimidating, representing thousands of hours of work by brilliant minds. I will give you 3 days, Timothy said curtly. That is generous, considering you have no official standing here. But do not expect miracles. We have been working on this problem for 8 months. After Timothy left, Victor sat alone with the research. For the first time in years, he felt like himself again. His hands trembled slightly as he opened the first folder, not from nervousness, but from excitement. This was what his mind was built for. He started reading. The drug compound was elegant, designed to target cancer cells while leaving healthy tissue unharmed. The laboratory results were spectacular, but the clinical trials told a different story. Patient response varied wildly with no clear pattern. Victor read through the night. Beth Torres brought him coffee and sandwiches, her eyes shining with hope for him. The security guards changed shifts twice. The building grew quiet as researchers went home. But Victor kept reading, his mind fully engaged for the first time since his father's illness. By the second day, he had reviewed every document. He started, making notes, drawing connections, seeing patterns. Something was bothering him, a detail that kept nagging at his consciousness. He went back through the patient reports, reading them more carefully. Then he saw it. The pattern was not in the drug itself. It was in the patients. The breakthrough on the morning of the 3rd day, Victor requested a meeting with Harrison, Rachel, and Timothy. They gathered in the conference room, their expressions ranging from curious to doubtful. Victor spread his notes across the table, his exhaustion evident, but his eyes bright with discovery. The drug is perfect. Your research is flawless. The problem is not what you created. The problem is what the patients are taking alongside it. Timothy frowned. We accounted for drug interactions. We screened for common medications. Victor shook his head. Not medications, supplements, herbal remedies, traditional medicines. Look at the patient reports. The ones with poor responses all mentioned taking additional supplements for immune support or general health. The ones with good responses took nothing extra. He pulled out specific reports, highlighting the mentions of supplements that had been noted but dismissed as irrelevant. These supplements contain compounds that bind to the same cellular receptors as your cancer drug. They are not dangerous on their own, but they compete with your treatment for absorption. Sometimes the drug gets through. Sometimes the supplements block it. That creates the inconsistent results you have been seeing. The room fell silent. Rachel grabbed the reports, reading them quickly. Timothy pulled up chemical structures on his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard. After several minutes, Rachel looked up, her face showing amazement. He is right. The binding sites overlap. We never considered this because we focused on pharmaceutical interactions, not nutritional supplements. We assumed they were inert. Timothy nodded slowly, his skepticism crumbling. This explains everything. The variation in results, the timing of responses, even the minor adverse reactions. Some patients were taking multiple supplements that created compound blocking effects. Harrison Blake smiled broadly. So the solution is screening patients for all supplements and adjusting treatment protocols accordingly. Victor nodded. Add supplement screening to your patient intake. Recommend a supplement-free period before starting treatment. The drug will work consistently once you control for this variable. A new beginning. Harrison stood and extended his hand. To Victor. Welcome to Meridian Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Chen. Even if you never finished your doctorate formally, you have earned the title today. Victor shook his hand, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Thank you, sir. Rachel approached, her earlier skepticism replaced with respect. I apologize for doubting you. You saw something we missed because you approached the problem differently. That is valuable. Timothy was slower to warm up, but he nodded. Acknowledgement. Good work. I look forward to seeing what else you can contribute. As Victor left the building that evening, no longer wearing a delivery uniform but carrying a research team badge, Beth Torres hugged him with tears in her eyes. I always knew you were special, Victor. I am so happy for you. Walking to his car, Victor looked up at the Meridian Pharmaceuticals building. The setting sun reflected off the glass, turning it golden. He thought about his father, about the sacrifices, and the lost years, about the knowledge he had carried in silence. His father's dream had not died. It had just been waiting for the right moment to come alive again. Victor arrived at Meridian Pharmaceuticals on Monday morning wearing clothes he had purchased over the weekend. A simple button-down shirt, clean slacks, and shoes that did not squeak on the marble floors. He carried a leather bag his father had given him years ago, back when graduate school seemed like his destiny. The bag had sat unused in his closet, a reminder of abandoned dreams. Now it held notebooks, pens, and the research materials Timothy had assigned him. The research department occupied the entire 15th floor. Glass-walled laboratories lined both sides of a central corridor. Scientists in white coats moved between workstations, their faces focused and serious. Computer screens displayed molecular structures and data charts. The air hummed with the quiet intensity of people solving important problems. Rachel Kim met him at the elevator and walked him through the department. She introduced him to various team members, most of whom greeted him politely but briefly. They were busy people with important work. Victor understood that. What made him uncomfortable was the whispered conversations that followed him. People were curious about the delivery driver who had become a researcher overnight. Your workstation is here, Rachel said, showing him to a desk near the main laboratory. You will be assisting Timothy's team with the cancer drug trial revisions. We are implementing your supplement screening protocol, but we need someone to monitor the results and adjust as needed. Victor nodded, grateful for clear direction. What else can I work on? Rachel smiled slightly. Let's see how you handle this first. Research moves slowly. Do not expect daily breakthroughs. But Victor's mind did not move slowly. By the end of his first week, he had not only monitored the revised trial protocol, but had also identified 3 other potential improvements to their drug delivery system. He wrote detailed reports and submitted them to Timothy, hoping to prove his value. The Resistance Robert Manning had worked at Meridian Pharmaceuticals for 12 years. At 41 years old, he held a doctorate from Cambridge and had published 17 papers in major medical journals. His contributions to the company were significant, and he expected respect for his experience and credentials. The arrival of Victor Chen bothered him deeply. During a team meeting 2 weeks after Victor started, Robert spoke up when Timothy praised Victor's latest analysis. I appreciate fresh perspectives, but we need to maintain professional standards. Mr. Chen lacks formal qualifications. He never completed his degree. He has no published research. We are a serious pharmaceutical company, not a charity program for people with incomplete educations. The room grew uncomfortable. Victor felt heat rising in his face, but kept his expression neutral. He had expected this. His path was unconventional, and not everyone would accept it. Harrison Blake, who had joined the meeting to check on progress, responded calmly. "Robert, results matter more than paperwork." Victor identified the supplement interaction problem that stumped our entire team. His analysis has already improved our trial success rate by 30%. Robert's jaw tightened. One lucky observation does not make someone a researcher. Real science requires years of training, peer review, systematic methodology. We cannot build a research department on inspirational stories. Timothy, who had initially been skeptical of Victor, surprised everyone by defending him. I was doubtful too, Robert. But Victor's work speaks for itself. His analysis is thorough, his methodology is sound, and his insights are valuable. Perhaps the problem is not his lack of credentials, but our rigid thinking about what qualifies someone to do this work. Robert said nothing more during the meeting, but his resentment was obvious. In the following weeks, he questioned Victor's work at every opportunity, demanded excessive documentation for simple tasks, and made subtle comments about unqualified staff. Victor tried to ignore it and focus on his research, but the constant negativity wore on him. Beth Torres, who still visited him during lunch breaks, noticed his discouragement. "Do not let him get to you, Victor. Some people feel threatened when others succeed in unexpected ways." Victor sighed. Maybe he has a point. Maybe I do not belong here. Beth shook her head firmly. You saved a woman's life. You solved a problem that experts could not solve. You belong here because you earned it. Robert is just afraid that your success makes his traditional path look less impressive. The crisis 3 months into Victor's time at Meridian, a crisis emerged. Genesis Labs, their main competitor, contacted several Meridian researchers with lucrative job offers. The timing was suspicious. Someone was trying to steal their research team right as the cancer drug trial was showing promising results. Harrison called an emergency meeting of senior staff. 2 of our researchers have already accepted offers from Genesis. They are trying to poach our entire team and steal our competitive advantage. We need to move faster on finalizing this drug trial before we lose more people. Rachel looked worried. If we rush, we risk making mistakes. The trial is going well, but we need several more months of data. Timothy added his concern. Genesis has unlimited funding from international investors. They can offer salaries we cannot match. How do we compete with that? Victor had been listening quietly, but an idea had been forming in his mind. He raised his hand tentatively. "May I suggest something?" Harrison nodded. "Please? What if we do not compete on salary? What if we compete on innovation? Genesis is trying to copy our approach, but we can develop something they cannot copy because they do not think the way we do." Robert scoffed. "And what magical innovation do you propose?" Victor ignored the sarcasm and continued. "Our cancer drug works by targeting specific cell markers, but cancer cells mutate and adapt. What if we develop a combination therapy that attacks multiple pathways simultaneously? Genesis is focused on copying our single-target approach. A multi-target strategy would make their research obsolete before they even finish stealing it." The room fell silent. Rachel's eyes widened. That would require coordinating. Multiple drug compounds, understanding their interactions, and testing them together. The complexity is enormous. Victor nodded. "But I have been studying combination approaches in my free time. I think I can map out a starting framework. It would take our research in a completely new direction, something Genesis cannot follow because they do not have our current data." Timothy leaned forward, interested despite himself. How long would it take to develop a working prototype? Victor thought carefully. With full team support, maybe 6 months for initial laboratory testing. But the advantage is that Genesis would be pursuing outdated research while we leap ahead. Harrison smiled slowly. I like it. It is bold, innovative, and exactly the kind of thinking that built this company. Robert, what do you think? Robert looked uncomfortable, trapped between his resentment and his professional obligation. The concept has merit, he admitted grudgingly, though the execution would be extremely challenging. Then let's do it, Harrison decided. Victor, you will lead this project. Assemble a team and start developing the framework. The Triumph Victor threw himself into the combination therapy project with passionate intensity. He worked late nights and long weekends, driven by both professional ambition and personal redemption. The years of delivering packages, of unused knowledge, of invisible existence, all of it fueled his determination to succeed. He assembled a small team of researchers who believed in the vision. Surprisingly, Timothy volunteered to join, impressed by Victor's unconventional thinking. Even Rachel contributed, recognizing the strategic importance of the project. Robert refused to participate, but his isolation became obvious. Other researchers gravitated toward Victor's project, excited by its innovative approach. Within 4 months, they had developed a working laboratory model. The combination therapy showed remarkable results, attacking cancer cells through 3 different pathways simultaneously. When they presented the findings to Harrison and the board, the response was overwhelming. Margaret Foster, the woman Victor had saved months earlier, was present at the meeting. She had fully recovered and wanted to thank him personally. "You gave me my life back twice," she told Victor warmly. "Once in that emergency, and now by developing treatment that might save countless others." Harrison stood to make an announcement. Based on the success of this project and Victor's consistent contributions, I am creating a new position, Head of Innovation. Victor Chen, I would like you to fill this role. Your job will be to think differently, to see possibilities others miss, and to lead us into new areas of research. Victor felt emotion welling up. He thought of his father, of the promises made and the dreams deferred. He thought of the years feeling invisible, carrying knowledge nobody wanted. All of it had led to this moment. But he had one more request. "Sir, if I accept this position, I would like to create a program, a scholarship and mentorship initiative for people from non-traditional backgrounds who have scientific talent but lack opportunities. People who had to leave school for family reasons, who could not afford to continue their education, who have knowledge but no credentials." Harrison smiled broadly. "That is exactly the kind of innovation we need. Make it happen." As Victor left the building that evening, he walked past the loading dock where he used to park his delivery truck. The new delivery driver was unloading packages, invisible to everyone, passing by. Victor stopped and approached him. "Hey, do you have a minute?" The young man looked surprised that someone had spoken to him. "Sure." Victor handed him his business card. "If you ever want to talk about opportunities here, or if you have skills you are not using, come find me. Sometimes the most valuable people are the ones nobody notices yet." The young man stared at the card, confused but hopeful. "Thank you, sir." Victor smiled and walked to his car. His father's voice echoed in his memory. "Use your gifts, son. Live your life." He was finally doing both, and he was making sure others could do the same. The invisible hands had become the guiding force of innovation, proving that brilliance can arrive from anywhere, even in a delivery uniform.